Imagine you're standing in front of a mirror, seeing yourself as you truly are. Now, pause for a moment and think. How often do you truly face yourself? How many of us go through life avoiding the painful truths, hiding behind distractions, or seeking fleeting pleasures to escape the inevitable struggles of life? Have you ever felt trapped in your own mind, caught between desires, fears, and the pressure of expectations? These are the kinds of questions we often avoid, but the answers are right in front of us. Life isn't always easy. There are moments when we feel overwhelmed, when we question everything around us. Why do we suffer? Why do we experience loss, disappointment, and pain? It's as if, no matter how hard we try, suffering seems to follow us. But what if there was a way to understand this suffering, to truly grasp its role in our lives, and even find peace in it? Buddhism teaches us that suffering is not something to fear, but something to understand. It's a natural part of existence. But what does that really mean? Can we really transform our pain into wisdom? Can suffering be a teacher, rather than just something to avoid? These are the profound insights we will explore together in this series. Before we dive deeper, I'd like to share something personal. There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% subscribe. So please, if you find this content valuable, like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wisdom Woven. Your support means the world. And please, drop down your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear from you. In this first part, we'll look closely at the Buddhist perspective on suffering and why understanding it is the first step toward liberation. So, stay with me, because what we uncover together may just change the way you see yourself and the world around you. Impermanence, the law we often deny. In life, everything changes. Nothing stays the same, not our bodies, our thoughts, or even the world around us. We see the seasons change, the years pass, and we feel the quiet shift of time, but we rarely stop to truly grasp the nature of change. It's so much a part of us that we tend to take it for granted. And yet, we also resist it, don't we? We cling to moments, people, and possessions, hoping that they will stay the same, that they will give us a sense of stability in an otherwise unstable world. But the truth is, everything is impermanent. This is the third of the Buddha's noble truths. It's not just a philosophical idea, it's a law of nature. When we truly understand that nothing lasts forever, it can be both a liberating and a painful realization. It's liberating because it helps us let go of the things that bind us, and it's painful because it forces us to face the truth of loss. Think for a moment about the things you hold on to. The memories of a loved one, a favorite possession, or even an old habit. You may feel a sense of security in these things. But as life continues, these very things will change. People grow old, relationships evolve, and possessions wear out. The very things that once felt so permanent will eventually fade away, leaving us with the stark reality of change. When we are young, we think that life is forever. We have time, we have youth, we have energy, but as we grow older, the truth of impermanence begins to sink in. We start to see the changes in our own bodies. Wrinkles appear, our energy fades, and we realize that the clock is ticking. The house we once lived in with such hope and excitement becomes a place we must leave behind. And we may mourn these changes, but they are part of life. Buddhism teaches us that it is not the fact of impermanence that causes suffering, but our attachment to the idea of permanence. We suffer because we resist the inevitable. We think that the things we hold dear should last forever, and when they don't, we feel lost, betrayed, or afraid. But when we understand that change is simply a part of life, we begin to free ourselves from the pain of attachment. Think about the times in your life when you held on too tightly to something or someone. Maybe it was a relationship, a job, or a dream. You wanted it to stay exactly the same, to give you the comfort of predictability. But sooner or later, things shifted. And in that shift, you may have felt a deep sense of loss or frustration. Yet, if you look back now, can you see how that change, even though painful, led you to something new? Can you see how it helped you grow? How it led you to a new chapter, a new perspective? There's a Buddhist practice called mindful letting go. It's about acknowledging the impermanence of all things and learning to release our grip on them without fear. It's not about giving up or becoming detached from life. It's about realizing that everything has its time, and when that time is over, we must let go. This doesn't mean we stop caring. On the contrary, it means we care deeply, but without clinging. When we practice mindfulness in this way, we start to see that everything from the seasons to the people in our lives is in constant flux. And this awareness, instead of causing despair, can bring a sense of peace. When we let go of the need to control or hold on to things, we are freed from the anxiety of their eventual loss. Imagine for a moment that you're holding a delicate flower. You admire its beauty, the way it glows in the sunlight. But no matter how much you love it, the flower will wilt. Its petals will fall, its color will fade. Now, think about how you would treat that flower if you truly understood its impermanence. Would you hold it tightly, afraid of losing it? Or would you appreciate its beauty in the moment, knowing that it is fleeting? Life is the same way. It's a series of beautiful moments, each one unique, each one impermanent. If we can learn to embrace impermanence, we can begin to live more fully. We stop wasting time trying to hold on to things, and we start to cherish them while they are with us. But how do we face the pain of loss? How do we deal with the inevitable changes that life throws at us? The key is acceptance. Acceptance does not mean resignation or indifference. It means acknowledging the truth of life as it is, without trying to change it. It means allowing ourselves to grieve when things are lost, but also allowing ourselves to celebrate what we had, even if it was only for a brief moment. There's a story in Buddhism about a man who had lost his only child. Overcome with grief, he went to the Buddha, asking for a way to make the pain go away. The Buddha listened patiently and then gave him a task. He told the man to go into the village and find a family that had never experienced loss, a family that was untouched by death. The man searched and searched, but came back empty-handed. Every family he spoke to had experienced some form of loss. Some had lost children, others had lost parents, and still others had lost loved ones in different ways. The point of this story is not to dismiss the pain of loss, but to show that impermanence affects us all. No one escapes it, but through understanding it, we can begin to accept that loss is a part of life. We can't stop it, but we can learn to face it with grace. And this brings us to a powerful realization. Impermanence, rather than being a source of fear or despair, can actually teach us to live more fully. It reminds us that every moment is precious. It reminds us to love more deeply, to appreciate what we have, and to live with a sense of gratitude. Because in the end, nothing lasts forever, but that makes what we have right now even more valuable. So, as you go through your life, remember, impermanence is not something to fear. It is the very essence of life itself. Embrace it, and you will find that peace and freedom come not from holding on, but from letting go. The illusion of control, letting go of the reins. Have you ever felt like you were holding on tightly to the reins of your life, determined to control every situation, every outcome? Maybe it's the desire to ensure that everything goes exactly as planned, that the people around you act in the way you expect, or that your life moves forward on a clear, predictable path. The idea of control feels comforting, doesn't it? It gives us a sense of security, a belief that we can steer our lives away from chaos. But what happens when life doesn't follow the script we've written for it? There's a saying in Buddhism, control is an illusion. And when we really stop to think about it, we see how true it is. The truth is, we can't control the flow of time, the weather, the actions of others, or even many of the things within ourselves. We could try to plan and organize, but we cannot predict every moment. Life is unpredictable. It can change in an instant, no matter how prepared we think we are. This is a hard truth for many to accept. The more we try to control, the more we realize how little we actually have control over. How many of us have spent sleepless nights trying to change the outcome of something that was beyond our influence? How many times have we found ourselves worrying about what might happen tomorrow, next year, or even decade from now? The pressure we place on ourselves to control everything often causes more pain than peace. Take a moment and reflect on your life. Think about all the times you've tried to control things, your relationships, your career, your health, or even the people around you. How much of that control has truly brought you lasting peace? More often than not, it has only led to stress, anxiety, and frustration. Control, in this sense, is an illusion that only serves to make us feel more separate from the flow of life. Buddhism offers a simple but powerful teaching: let go. Instead of trying to control everything, we can learn to accept what comes. This doesn't mean we give up on striving for the things we want, but it means understanding that some things are simply beyond our control. When we stop fighting against the natural course of events, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. There's beauty in surrendering to the flow of life. The moment we release our grip on the illusion of control, we create space for a deeper sense of peace to enter our lives. Imagine a river flowing naturally, carving its path through the landscape. The river doesn't struggle or resist its course. It simply flows. It adapts, it shapes its surroundings, but it never fights against what is. This is how we can learn to be fluid, adaptable, and at peace with the unknown. This doesn't mean we become passive or stop taking action. Far from it. It means we learn to take action without the need to control every outcome. It's about releasing the attachment to results. When we act without the burden of needing things to be a certain way, we can experience life more fully and with less anxiety. We begin to see that we don't need to micromanage every part of our lives. Instead, we can be present in the moment and trust that things will unfold as they are meant to. But letting go of control is not always easy. It requires courage. It asks us to trust not only in the world around us, but also in ourselves. We must trust that we can handle whatever comes our way, even if it's not what we expected. Trusting life means having faith in the process, even when the road is unclear. It means accepting that we can't predict or control every moment, but that we can respond to each moment with wisdom and grace. Think about the times you've resisted change. Perhaps you've tried to hold on to something, a job, a relationship, a place, or an identity, because it felt familiar or safe. Even when that thing no longer served you, you clung to it, afraid of what might happen if you let go. Yet, in the end, you may have found that when you finally surrendered, life offered you something even better. Sometimes the very thing we resist is the thing that holds us back from experiencing something greater. When we let go of control, we also let go of fear. Fear is often what drives our need for control. We fear the unknown, the uncertain, the unpredictable. But when we accept that life is not meant to be controlled, fear loses its grip on us. It's like the fear of the dark. When we embrace the unknown, it becomes less frightening. Life becomes less about managing and more about experiencing, more about being present. There is peace in surrender. There is freedom in letting go. And the more we learn to embrace this truth, the more we open ourselves to the true nature of life. The need for control fades, and we find ourselves more connected to the present moment. In this space, we discover that we are enough just as we are. We don't need to control everything to feel secure. True security comes from knowing that we can handle whatever comes our way, even if it's not what we planned. This lesson is one that many of us must learn over and over again. It's not something that happens overnight, but with patience, mindfulness, and practice, we can begin to shift our mindset from one of control to one of acceptance. The more we let go of the need to control, the more we begin to flow with life rather than against it. And in that flow, we find peace, we find wisdom, and we find freedom. So, as you move forward in life, remember this: you don't need to control every outcome. Life will unfold as it's meant to, and you have everything you need to navigate whatever comes your way. Release the reins and trust in the journey. Let go and watch how life begins to work in your favor when you stop trying so hard to force it. Loneliness in a connected world. There are times in life when we feel alone, even though we are surrounded by people. In this modern world, we are constantly connected. We have social media, endless notifications, and the ability to reach out to anyone at any moment. Yet, the more we connect with others, the more we often feel disconnected from ourselves and the world around us. Loneliness isn't just about being physically alone. It's about feeling a deep emptiness inside, as though something is missing. The feeling of loneliness is something everyone experiences, no matter how many friends or followers they may have. We might feel that no one truly understands us, or that we're isolated in a sea of faces. In fact, many people go through their lives surrounded by crowds, yet still feel deeply alone. The truth is, loneliness isn't just an emotional state. It's a reflection of our inner disconnect. We may be disconnected from our own feelings, from the deeper aspects of ourselves, or from the present moment. Buddhism offers a unique perspective on loneliness. It teaches that we often seek external connections, hoping they will fill the emptiness we feel inside. But no external relationship can ever truly end that feeling. This is because true connection begins within ourselves. When we don't feel complete on the inside, we look for something or someone outside of us to complete us. But this search is endless, and it only leaves us more frustrated and more isolated. You may have experienced moments when you've reached out for comfort, but even then, the emptiness inside remains. You may have tried filling it with success, material things, or the approval of others, only to find that these things are not enough. You may have spent hours scrolling through social media, watching others' lives unfold, only to find yourself feeling more alone than before. Why does this happen? It happens because we're looking for connection in the wrong places. We're looking for something outside of us to fill an internal void. But Buddhism teaches us that the answer lies within. True connection doesn't come from the world outside. It comes from recognizing and embracing the wholeness that already exists inside us. It's about understanding that in the deepest sense, we are never truly alone. The universe is vast, and everything in it is interconnected. We are all part of a greater whole, even if we don't always see it or feel it. There's a beautiful teaching in Buddhism that speaks of interbeing. This means that all things are connected, and nothing exists in isolation. You are not separate from the people around you, nor from nature, nor from the world. Even in moments of loneliness, we can find comfort in knowing that we are part of this vast, interconnected web of life. Every living being shares the same basic human experience: suffering, joy, growth, and transformation. When we can truly understand this interconnectedness, loneliness begins to lose its grip on us. We no longer feel as though we are isolated in our struggles, but instead, we see that our pain, our joys, our fears, all of it, is shared by others in this world. In that moment, loneliness starts to dissolve, and we begin to feel a deeper sense of peace. We are never alone. We are always part of something greater. In Buddhism, there's also an emphasis on mindfulness, or being present in the moment. Often, loneliness comes when we are either dwelling on the past or anxiously thinking about the future. We forget to be present with ourselves. When we practice mindfulness, we learn to appreciate the present moment, and in doing so, we find peace and connection within ourselves. The more we can cultivate mindfulness, the less power loneliness has over us. Buddhism teaches that when we face loneliness, we should not try to push it away or ignore it. Instead, we should sit with it, acknowledge it, and understand it. By doing so, we create space for healing. We see that loneliness is not something to be feared, but something to be understood. When we stop resisting it, we can begin to transform it. In the moments when loneliness feels overwhelming, it can be helpful to remember that we are not alone in our experience. There are millions of others who feel the same way. And while no one can fully walk our journey for us, we can find solace in knowing that we are part of a shared human experience. Others, too, are seeking connection, and sometimes just knowing that someone else understands can be enough to lessen the weight of loneliness. Another key aspect of overcoming loneliness is self-compassion. In the quiet moments when we feel lonely, we often turn against ourselves, blaming ourselves for our feelings or judging ourselves for not having stronger connections with others. But Buddhism teaches us that compassion begins with ourselves. We must learn to embrace our own loneliness with kindness, without judgment. When we treat ourselves with compassion, we open up the space for healing. Instead of berating ourselves for feeling lonely, we can acknowledge our feelings with understanding, knowing that it is okay to feel this way. The next time loneliness visits you, try to sit with it. Instead of trying to escape it, simply breathe through it. Recognize that it is not a permanent state, but rather a passing feeling. Understand that it is a signal from within, asking you to reconnect with yourself in the present moment. Through mindfulness and compassion, you will find that even in your loneliest moments, you are not truly alone. At the heart of all these teachings is the truth that true peace comes from within. The external world will always change. People will come and go, and circumstances will shift. But your connection to your own heart, your own inner world, can be a constant source of peace and comfort. In this sense, loneliness becomes a path to self-discovery, self-compassion, and ultimately, connection with the greater whole of life. As we continue this journey, remember that loneliness is not a burden to carry, but an invitation to deepen our understanding of ourselves. It is an opportunity to pause, reflect, and reconnect. By embracing our loneliness, rather than running from it, we open the door to a deeper sense of peace, belonging, and interconnectedness. We begin to see that true connection comes not from the external world, but from within. And once we realize this, we are free to experience life with a sense of wholeness, no matter where we are or who we are with. The ego's mask, who are you really? We go through life wearing masks. These masks are not just a way to hide our face. They're the very things we use to define ourselves. The mask we wear could be our job title, our social status, or the roles we play in life. We define ourselves by the things we do, the way others see us, and the expectations we think we must meet. But deep down, when we pause and look beyond these masks, we are left with a question: who are we really? From a Buddhist perspective, the ego is the mask that creates a barrier between us and our true nature. The ego convinces us that we are separate from everyone else, that we are distinct, and that our identity is fixed. But is that true? Are we truly separate from the world around us? Or are we all interconnected in ways we don't even understand? The ego wants to be recognized. It craves validation, appreciation, and acknowledgement. It feels threatened when it doesn't get the attention it believes it deserves. But in this constant search for approval, we lose sight of who we truly are. The ego wants to protect itself, to ensure that it survives, often at the expense of our happiness and peace. Think about a time when you felt deeply hurt or offended by something someone said or did. Maybe they criticized you, or maybe they didn't recognize your efforts. In that moment, your ego was wounded. It wanted to defend itself, to prove that you were right, to show that you were important. But have you ever noticed how, when the dust settles, that pain starts to fade? The sting of the moment is often not as sharp as it seemed at first. This is because beneath the ego's surface, there's a deeper truth, a truth that says we're not these temporary labels we place on ourselves. We're not defined by what we own, by how others see us, or by how successful we appear. We are not the sum of our experiences or our failures. These are just layers of the ego, passing clouds in the sky of our being. In Buddhism, this is known as the concept of anatta, or non-self. The ego, in its endless quest for control and validation, clings to a false idea of who we are. But when we look beyond this, we realize that our true nature is far more expansive and profound than any role or label we could adopt. The ego may push us to chase after recognition, but true peace comes when we let go of this constant need to prove ourselves. It comes when we stop identifying with the mask and start recognizing the vastness of our true self. The truth is, our identities are constantly changing. We may be parents, friends, workers, or children, but all these roles are just temporary, fleeting positions we take on in this journey called life. We wear them for a time, but they do not define who we are at our core. Life is dynamic, and we evolve. But the ego fears change because it thrives on stability and control. It tells us that if we change, we will lose ourselves. But the truth is, the more we let go of the ego's need for control, the more we uncover our authentic selves. Let's take a moment to reflect on something simple yet profound. Think about how you react when you are praised. Does it feel good? Of course it does. The ego loves praise. It seeks it out and finds comfort in it. But notice how this feeling fades away. The praise becomes a fleeting moment, and soon you are searching for the next boost. This cycle of craving and dissatisfaction is the work of the ego, never fully satisfied, always wanting more. Now, think about the opposite. When someone criticizes you, the ego reacts defensively, trying to protect its fragile identity. It may make you feel angry or hurt, and in that moment, you may even forget who you really are. The criticism feels personal, as though it is an attack on your very essence. But in reality, it is just a reflection of the other person's perspective, not a truth about your worth or identity. Buddhism teaches us to observe these reactions without getting lost in them. The ego wants to take everything personally, but the more we observe, the more we realize that most of our suffering is rooted in these attachments to our egoic identity. We identify with the praise, the criticism, the roles we play, and the image we present to the world. But none of these things are truly us. The more we practice mindfulness, the more we can separate ourselves from the ego's hold. We start to see that the judgments of others, the labels we put on ourselves, and the praise or criticism we receive are all external factors. They do not define who we are. By practicing mindfulness, we can look past these external factors and connect with a deeper sense of peace and wisdom that resides within us. The ego's power lies in its ability to manipulate our sense of self-worth. It convinces us that we must be something specific in order to be valuable. But in truth, we are already complete, just as we are. Our worth does not depend on our achievements, our appearance, or the approval of others. Our worth is inherent, born from the fact that we are alive, breathing, and part of this vast, interconnected universe. Letting go of the ego's grip is not easy. It requires patience, self-awareness, and a willingness to face the discomfort that arises when we no longer have the safety net of our identity. But as we begin to let go, we uncover a deep sense of freedom. Freedom from the need to prove ourselves, freedom from the desire to be seen a certain way, freedom from the endless cycle of craving and disappointment. When we stop identifying with the ego, we allow ourselves to experience life more fully. We begin to see others not as threats or competitors, but as fellow travelers on this shared journey. We realize that the masks we wear are just illusions, and beneath them, we are all the same. Human beings searching for peace, connection, and meaning. The Buddhist path encourages us to see the ego for what it truly is, a collection of thoughts, desires, and fears that do not define us. By letting go of our attachment to the ego, we begin to experience life as it truly is, free from the need to control, to compete, or to conform. This is not a rejection of our individual selves, but rather an invitation to embrace our true nature, one that is far more vast and interconnected than we could ever imagine. In the end, the ego is just a mask, is not who we are. And once we begin to recognize this, we start to experience the world in a completely new way, one that is free from the limitations of the self, open to the beauty and mystery of life as it unfolds. Desire, the root that keeps growing. Imagine a small seed planted in the soil of your mind. At first, it seems harmless, even insignificant, but over time, it begins to grow, stretching its roots deep into your thoughts and desires. Before long, this seed has become an unmanageable vine, consuming your mental space and your energy. It starts to control your decisions, your actions, and even your feelings. That seed is desire. And just like the vine, it grows stronger, reaching farther, and demanding more from you. Desire is a part of being human, something everyone experiences. We desire things that bring us comfort, success, and happiness. It's natural. But what happens when those desires take over? What happens when they stop being a simple wish and turn into an insatiable hunger? When desire is unchecked, it pulls us in many directions, constantly convincing us that we need more. More money, more possessions, more recognition. We tell ourselves that if we just have this one thing, we'll finally be happy. But when we get it, it's never enough. The emptiness remains. Buddhism teaches that desire is the root of all suffering. This doesn't mean that having desires is inherently bad. Rather, it's the attachment to those desires that causes pain. We believe that having what we want will bring us peace, but it's a fleeting peace. The moment we get what we want, we're already thinking about what we'll desire next. It's an endless cycle that keeps us running without truly experiencing satisfaction. You might be thinking, but isn't it natural to want things? To desire success, love, or even peace of mind? Yes, it is. There's nothing wrong with desiring things. In fact, desire can be a powerful motivator, pushing us to achieve goals and improve ourselves. But the key lies in how we relate to those desires. If we become attached to them, believing that our happiness depends on fulfilling them, we trap ourselves. We bind ourselves to a cycle of craving and dissatisfaction that can never truly bring peace. Take a moment and reflect on your own life. What are your desires? What do you believe will bring you happiness? Is it a new car, a bigger house, a promotion at work, or a relationship that you're striving for? We all have them. But ask yourself, when you get what you want, how long does that happiness last? How soon do you find yourself desiring something else? This constant striving for more is not unique to you. It's a part of the human condition. It's built into the way we think, the way we've been conditioned by society, and the way we see the world. From a young age, we're taught to reach for more, to work hard, achieve, and get ahead. But this mindset can leave us feeling empty, as if we're running a race without a finish line. The more we achieve, the more we want, and the more we want, the further we feel from true contentment. The Buddha, in his teachings, pointed out that the root of all suffering is not the things we desire, but our attachment to them. Attachment creates a sense of lack, as if we are incomplete without certain things. This belief creates a constant sense of dissatisfaction. We may have what we desire, but it never feels quite enough. And when we lose what we've gained, the pain is even greater because our happiness was tied to something external. So what is the solution? How can we navigate life with desires without letting them control us? The answer lies in cultivating awareness and understanding. Instead of blindly chasing after our desires, we can learn to observe them, acknowledge them, and then let them go. This doesn't mean that we stop having desires altogether, but rather we stop clinging to them as if they're the key to our happiness. Imagine, for a moment, being able to live your life without constantly needing more. What if you could find peace right where you are with what you have? What if the chase for external satisfaction didn't rule your every thought and action? This is the path of mindfulness, the ability to notice your desires, understand their impermanence, and release them when they arise. It's not about suppressing desires or pretending they don't exist. It's about acknowledging them without allowing them to control you. Buddhism offers us the practice of detachment, not from life itself, but from a need to possess and control every outcome. We can still desire things, but we no longer have to believe that those things will complete us. We begin to understand that true contentment comes from within, not from external possessions or achievements. The more we practice this, the more we can experience the freedom of living without constantly being driven by desire. You might wonder, but isn't it okay to desire good things? Shouldn't we strive to improve our lives? Absolutely. Desiring positive change in our lives, seeking better health, cultivating loving relationships, and striving for personal growth are all part of being human. The problem arises when we attach our sense of self-worth to those desires, believing that we are incomplete without them. When our happiness depends on something external, we're bound to experience suffering. Take the example of flower in bloom. It doesn't struggle to grow or compete with other flowers. It simply blooms effortlessly without clinging to the outcome. It accepts the sunlight, the rain, and the soil it's given, knowing that its growth is part of a natural process. In the same way, we can live our lives, accepting our desires without clinging to them, allowing ourselves to grow and change without the pressure of needing more to feel complete. Desire itself isn't the enemy. It's how we relate to it that matters. If we can change our relationship with desire, we can find peace even in the midst of wanting. Instead of being driven by an insatiable thirst for more, we can learn to appreciate what we have right now, in this moment. We can cultivate gratitude for the small things, for the present moment, and for the simple joys of life. This shift in perspective doesn't mean we stop desiring. It means we stop letting our desires dictate our happiness. As you move forward in life, remember this: desire is not bad, but attachment to it is what creates suffering. The key to living a peaceful life is not to rid yourself of desire, but to cultivate a sense of inner peace that is not dependent on getting what you want. When you can do this, you will experience a deeper kind of freedom, one that isn't dependent on the ebb and flow of external circumstances. This is the path that Buddhism offers us, a path of mindfulness, detachment, and inner peace. Aging and mortality, the truth we try to ignore. Sit with me for a moment. Breathe slowly. Let's talk about something we all face, but often turn away from. One day, you look in the mirror. The face looking back is still you, but it has changed. There are lines that were not there before. The eyes look more tired. The skin is softer, maybe thinner. The body aches in places that once felt strong. This is not something wrong. This is not something to be fixed. This is life. Aging is not a mistake. It is the natural unfolding every time here. But most people do not want to see this truth. They cover the mirror. They rush to stay young. They pretend time will wait. But time never waits. In Buddhism, we learn that everything that comes together must also fall apart. It is not sadness. It is not tragedy. It is simply the way things are. A flower blooms, and then it fades. The wind rises, and then it calms. Your body, too, came into this world full of energy, and slowly it returns to stillness. Most people fear aging because they believe it means losing. Losing beauty, losing strength, losing control. But I say, there's beauty in the slowing down. There's strength in softness. And there's freedom when you stop trying to hold everything tight. You see, we fear aging because we fear death. But death is not the enemy. Death is not something hiding in the shadows, waiting to take something from you. Death is part of the rhythm. Just as night follows day, death follows life. And both are needed. When you walk through a forest, do you only look at the green leaves? Or do you also notice the golden ones falling gently to the ground? They are not useless. They become the soil for new life. So too, your aging is not a decline. It is a return to simplicity, to stillness, to the truth. Many people spend their lives running from death, but the wise learn to walk with it, not with fear, but with peace. To know you are dying each day is not to be sad, is to wake up, is to realize how precious each moment truly is. To drink your tea with both hands, to watch the clouds pass without rushing them, to speak gently, knowing words have weight. Sometimes people ask me, "Master, how do I stop fearing the end?" And I tell them, begin by living fully now. When you are truly here, in this breath, in this step, then there is no fear. Because you're not wasting anything. You are not lost in yesterday or worried about tomorrow. You are alive now. That is all we ever truly have. Growing old is a gift. You see more clearly. You know what matters and what is not. You laugh more quietly. You cry more honestly. And you no longer chase what does not fill your heart. In your youth, you collect. You gather things, experiences, people. You build your name, your place in the world. In old age, you let go. You give away. You return things to where they came from. And in this letting go, something amazing happens. You feel lighter. You begin to see that what you truly are was never something you could hold in your hand. you begin to feel the soul, not as an idea, but as a quiet presence, a deep peace that does not age, that does not break, that does not die. I once met an old monk who could barely walk. His hands shook. His voice was soft like wind through dry leaves. But when he looked at you, there was nothing weak in his gaze. It was full of light. He had no fear. He said, "I'm like the evening sun, not as hot, not as high, but still shining, still warming the earth." This is how we can live as we grow older, not trying to hold the morning forever, but welcoming the evening, sitting in the quiet light, and knowing we have been the river, and now we become the sea. You do not need to escape aging. You need to understand it. Welcome it. Honor it. It is not the falling away of life. It is the opening of a deeper chapter. When you stop fighting against time, you become timeless. And when the body is ready to rest for the last time, you'll not be afraid. Because you have walked with truth. You have seen the beauty of change. And you have known that what you are was never only this body. So walk gently now. Be kind to your wrinkles. Smile at the slowness. It is not the end of life. It is the deepening of it. The pain of comparison and envy. In life, one of the most persistent struggles we face is the temptation to compare ourselves with others. It's easy to look around and measure our worth based on what others have or what they've achieved. From a simple glance at social media to the constant rush of daily life, we are often caught in the trap of comparison. You may look at someone and think, "Why don't I have what they have?" Or, "Why is my life so different from theirs?" It's human nature to compare, but the pain that comes with it is something we often ignore. We see someone else's success, their possessions, their relationships, and we feel a deep longing within us. It's as if their happiness shines a light on the emptiness we may feel within ourselves. But the truth is, this comparison is based on an illusion. What we see on the outside is not always the reality of what that person is going through on the inside. Every person has their own battles, their own challenges, even if they aren't visible to us. The Buddha once said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." When we constantly measure ourselves against others, we lose sight of our own unique path and what truly makes us happy. Instead of focusing on what we don't have, we forget to appreciate what we do. The pain of comparison comes from not seeing the value in our own lives, from not acknowledging our own strengths, and from not embracing the beauty of our personal journey. Have you ever noticed how, after a moment of comparing yourself to someone else, you feel this deep ache inside? It might feel like a longing, a desire for something that seems just out of reach. This feeling, this pain, is rooted in envy. Envy isn't just about wanting what someone else has. It's about feeling as if what we have isn't enough. It's the belief that we are lacking in some way. It's the silent whisper that tells us we are incomplete, that we need more to be whole. But what if that's not true? What if we're already whole, just as we are? The teachings of Buddhism remind us that attachment to external things, whether it's wealth, beauty, success, or recognition, only brings more suffering. When we tie our sense of worth to things outside of ourselves, we are forever chasing something that is fleeting. External achievements may bring temporary happiness, but they don't lead to lasting fulfillment. The painful truth is that comparing ourselves to others only keeps us trapped in a cycle of dissatisfaction. It creates a false narrative that we are not enough, that we need to be different or have what someone else has to feel complete. But this cycle can only be broken when we realize that true happiness comes from within. Look around at your own life for a moment. What do you have right now that brings you peace, joy, and contentment? It might be a small thing, like the comfort of your home, a moment of quiet, or the love of those close to you. These simple things, though they may seem insignificant in the face of what others have, are the very things that contribute to your well-being. By comparing yourself to others, you miss out on the beauty of your own life. Buddhism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our thoughts, our actions, and our ability to live in the present moment. When we stop comparing and start embracing who we are, we begin to see the world differently. we start to realize that our worth is not defined by the opinions of others or the material successes we achieve. It's not about having more than others. It's about being content with what we have, finding peace in our own unique journey. One of the most freeing lessons we can learn is to stop measuring ourselves against others. When you stop comparing, you stop giving away your power. You stop allowing other successes or failures to dictate how you feel about yourself. This is not to say that we shouldn't learn from others or admire those who inspire us. But we must learn to celebrate their achievements without allowing their paths to diminish our own. Your journey is yours alone. It's also important to recognize that comparison doesn't just hurt us, it hurts our relationships with others. When we compare ourselves to a friend, a colleague, or even a family member, it creates distance. It leads to feelings of inadequacy, jealousy, and sometimes even resentment. When we feel envious, it becomes harder to celebrate the successes of others genuinely. Instead of sharing in their joy, we may feel bitterness, as if their happiness is somehow a reflection of our own shortcomings. But what if we could change that? What if we could find joy in other successes without feeling less about ourselves? Buddhism teaches that we can cultivate a mindset of joy for others. By practicing compassion and understanding, we can shift from envy to appreciation. When we stop seeing others' happiness as a threat to our own and start seeing it as a shared experience of joy, we create a deeper connection with them. The next time you feel that familiar ache of comparison, take a step back and reflect. Ask yourself, what am I really seeking by comparing myself? Is it approval, validation, success? The truth is, these things will never be enough if they come from outside of ourselves. True peace comes from within, from accepting who we are without needing to be better than anyone else. The more you practice mindfulness and self-acceptance, the less the pain of comparison will control you. You'll find that your sense of worth no longer depends on what others have, but on the recognition of your own inherent value. And in doing so, you will find that the envy that once caused you pain will transform into a deep appreciation for the uniqueness of your life. You are enough, just as you are. And when you learn to embrace that truth, the pain of comparison will begin to fade away, replaced by a peaceful contentment that doesn't rely on the approval or possessions of others. The freedom from comparison is a gift you give to yourself, a gift that allows you to live fully in the present, appreciating all that you are and all that you have. The wounds of the past, how memory traps us. Imagine carrying a heavy bag. Every day, it gets heavier, filled with stones. These stones represent the memories of past hurt, past failures, past mistakes. The more you walk through life, the heavier this bag becomes. It starts to affect your every step, your every thought. Some of us hold onto these stones for years, without realizing the weight they carry. We think about the things we've done, the things others have done to us, the things we wish we could change. But what if I told you that this bag, this weight, is not something that can be left behind easily? Buddhism teaches us that the past is a place we cannot change. The hurt, the loss, the pain, it's already been experienced. No matter how hard we try to relive it or undo it, it remains fixed in the past. Yet, we continue to let these memories shape our present. We relive the pain over and over again in our minds, as though the events are happening right now. We let our memories rule us, causing us to make decisions based on old wounds instead of the fresh possibilities that life offers today. It's as if we are stuck in a loop, trapped by our own memories, unable to move forward. But this is not the path to peace. In fact, it's the path to suffering. The more we focus on what has happened, the more we remain tied to it. The past doesn't need to define us. It's natural to remember. After all, memories are part of what makes us human. But it's how we relate to those memories that shapes our experience of life. Are we living in the past, or are we using those memories to fuel growth and understanding in the present? One of the core teachings of Buddhism is the practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness is not just about focusing on the present moment. It's about observing our thoughts and emotions without attachment. When we look at our memories through the lens of mindfulness, we begin to see them clearly for what they are, just memories. They are no longer the defining force in our lives. We can observe them with detachment, understanding that they are not us and they do not control us. Many people think that letting go of the past means forgetting it, but that's not the case. Letting go isn't about erasing the past. It's about accepting it, understanding it, and moving forward. We must acknowledge that the hurt we've experienced was real, but we must also accept that it is over. Holding on to the past too tightly only keeps us stuck in a place of suffering. Our minds get stuck in a loop, constantly replaying the same scenes, the same hurts, and the same regrets. It's like watching a movie over and over again. There's no resolution, no end. And this movie plays in our minds, shaping how we see ourselves, how we see others, and how we respond to the world around us. One of the most powerful ways to break free from the past is to forgive. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. Many believe forgiveness is about letting someone off the hook for their wrongdoings. But true forgiveness isn't about the other person at all. It's about freeing yourself from the chains of resentment, anger, and pain. Forgiveness doesn't mean what happened was okay. It simply means you're no longer willing to carry the burden of bitterness. You're no longer willing to let that memory weigh you down. When you forgive, you release yourself from the past. But forgiveness doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice, a process. It takes time, and it's something that begins within. We must first forgive ourselves for the ways we have hurt others or fallen short. It's easy to be hard on ourselves, to judge ourselves harshly for the mistakes we've made. But remember, we are all human. We all make mistakes. It's part of our journey. Forgiveness begins with understanding that we are doing the best we can, given what we know at the time. We don't have to be perfect, but we can always strive to be better. Another important aspect of moving beyond the past is embracing impermanence. The concept of impermanence is central in Buddhism. Everything changes. Nothing stays the same. The pain of yesterday is not permanent, and neither is the joy of today. We must learn to see everything in life as temporary. When we recognize that all things, both good and bad, are transient, we can begin to let go of our attachment to them. The past is no exception. The hurt we carry from yesterday is just a passing moment, just like everything else. It will fade if we allow it to. The more we resist the flow of life, the more we suffer. The past can only hold us captive if we continue to resist it. We resist by trying to change things that can't be changed, by wishing things were different, by holding on to regrets. But true peace comes when we accept that the past is over, and there's nothing we can do to change it. What we can do is change how we respond to it. Life, as Buddhism teaches us, is about freedom. We are not meant to be trapped by our memories. We are meant to experience life fully, in the present, without the weight of past mistakes or past hurts. Every moment is a new opportunity to start fresh, to let go of what has held us back, and to step into the future with a sense of peace and clarity. In the practice of mindfulness, we begin to notice when the past is creeping into our thoughts. We become aware of when we are reliving an old memory, when we are rehashing old wounds. And in that moment, we can choose to let go. We can choose to focus on the present moment, on the life that is unfolding right before us. We can choose to walk forward, free from the weight of the past. This doesn't mean that we forget or ignore the lessons the past has taught us. The past is a teacher, but it does not have to be a prison. The lessons we've learned about ourselves, about others, about life, are valuable. But those lessons don't need to control us. They don't need to dictate our future. The future is unwritten, and we have the power to shape it, starting right now. In Buddhist teachings, we are reminded that suffering is a natural part of life. But we are also reminded that we don't have to suffer needlessly. We don't have to continue to carry the burdens of the past. We can choose to release them. We can choose to find peace in the present. And when we do, we free ourselves from the grip of old memories, allowing us to live a life of greater clarity, freedom, and joy. The wounds of the past may never fully disappear, but with each step we take toward healing, they lose their power over us. With each breath we take in the present moment, we find more space to live freely. And as we let go of the past, we make room for new experiences, new lessons, and new growth. The past is no longer our master. We are the masters of our own lives, and we have the power to shape our future. Freedom through acceptance. The journey we've walked so far has been one of reflection and understanding. We have explored suffering, attachment, the ego, and the transient nature of life. But now we arrive at a very important truth. The key to freedom lies not in resisting life, but in accepting it fully and completely as it is. Imagine, for a moment, that you are standing at the edge of a vast river. The current is strong, and the water is moving quickly, carrying everything in its path. You try to fight it, to swim against the current, but you will quickly tire and be swept away. The energy you spend resisting the flow only increases your struggle. But if you instead allow yourself to float, to trust the river, you begin to notice something. The current, while strong, also carries you forward. In surrendering to it, you discover the freedom of being carried, of not having to fight every step of the way. This is the power of acceptance. Acceptance is not about giving up or resigning yourself to pain. It is about acknowledging reality as it is. Life, as it stands, with all its joy, pain, success, and failure, is here and now. We often wish for things to be different. We want more time. We want better health. We want peace. But the more we resist what is, the more we suffer. The essence of freedom is learning to accept what we cannot change, while still doing what we can to improve what we can. Buddhism teaches us that suffering arises not from the external world, but from our internal struggle. Our resistance to what is creates the pain we feel. We often think that if we just had the right circumstances, we could finally be happy. But happiness does not come from the perfect set of circumstances. It comes from within, through the power of acceptance. When we stop fighting life, we stop adding extra layers of suffering. We're no longer consumed by the what-ifs or the if-onlys. We stop thinking that we need to control everything around us. We realize that our true strength lies not in controlling the world, but in mastering our response to it. When we accept the things we cannot change, we free ourselves from the burden of endless resistance. We stop creating pain where none needs to exist. Acceptance also means letting go of the illusion of permanence. Everything in life is in constant motion, and when we accept this truth, we let go of the need to hold on to things. We stop clinging to people, places, and objects. This doesn't mean we become indifferent or detached. Rather, we learn to experience life fully, knowing that everything is temporary. This understanding allows us to enjoy the moments we have without the fear of losing them. Think of a tree in the wind. It doesn't resist the breeze, it sways with it. In doing so, it remains rooted, yet flexible, unbroken by the gusts that pass through. Similarly, we must learn to bend with life's changes, to adapt without losing our sense of self. This is the power of acceptance. It allows us to endure the storms of life without breaking. But accepting life as it is doesn't mean we don't care about making things better. It doesn't mean we become passive or inactive. Rather, acceptance brings clarity. When we stop resisting, we can see things more clearly and make decisions based on what is truly important. We act not out of frustration or fear, but out of wisdom and compassion. We choose our responses, rather than react impulsively to life's challenges. Acceptance also means letting go of the need for approval. So much of our suffering comes from trying to meet the expectations of others, or from fearing rejection. We worry about what people think, what they expect from us. But when we accept ourselves as we are, we no longer need external validation to feel complete. We come to realize that our worth is not determined by the opinions of others, but by the peace we cultivate within ourselves. There's another layer to this acceptance. It is the acceptance of our own imperfections. For many of us, there's a constant inner struggle to be good enough, to meet some standard we have set for ourselves or that society has placed upon us. But when we accept our flaws, our mistakes, and our limitations, we free ourselves from the need to prove anything. We begin to see ourselves as we truly are, not as a perfect version of ourselves, but as a human being doing the best we can with what we have. The Buddha spoke of the four noble truths, the first of which is that suffering exists. But he didn't stop there. He showed us that suffering can be overcome, not by denying its existence, but by understanding it. This understanding, this wisdom, leads to acceptance. When we accept suffering as a natural part of life, we no longer fear it. We learn to walk through it, not as victims, but as beings capable of transcending it. Through acceptance, we also cultivate compassion. We understand that everyone we meet is fighting their own battles, facing their own struggles. Instead of judging, we open our hearts to others, seeing them not as obstacles or threats, but as fellow travelers on the same journey. Compassion is born from the recognition that we are all part of the same human experience, all seeking peace and understanding. In Buddhism, this acceptance is often referred to as the practice of mindfulness. To be mindful is to be present, to accept each moment as it is, without judgment. It's about embracing life, not as a problem to be solved, but as a process to be experienced. When we practice mindfulness, we stop living in the past or the future, and instead, we live in the present moment. We stop chasing after what we don't have and begin to appreciate what is already here. This brings us to another important point. Acceptance is not a one-time event. It is a practice, something we must cultivate daily. It's not about perfecting ourselves, but about learning to be at peace with ourselves exactly as we are. The more we practice acceptance, the more natural it becomes. Over time, we learn to let go of the constant need for control, and we begin to flow with life rather than against it. The freedom that comes with acceptance is not the freedom of escape. It is the freedom to be fully present with whatever is happening in our lives, without fear, without resistance. It is the freedom to face life's challenges with grace, knowing that we have the inner strength to handle whatever comes our way. So, how do we begin to practice this acceptance? Start by observing your thoughts and emotions without judgment. Notice when you are resisting something in your life, whether it's a difficult situation, a painful emotion, or an aspect of yourself. Instead of trying to push it away, allow it to be there. Acknowledge it, sit with it, and breathe through it. As you do, you'll begin to feel the weight of resistance lift. You'll start to feel lighter, freer. This is the true meaning of freedom, not the absence of struggle, but the ability to navigate life's struggles with an open heart and a peaceful mind. Acceptance allows us to live fully, without the burden of constant resistance, and in doing so, we find a deeper, more lasting freedom. In the end, it is through acceptance that we discover peace. The world may continue to change, the winds of life may continue to blow, but when we learn to accept them, we become unshaken, rooted in our own inner strength. And in this way, we truly live the path beyond pain, transformation through wisdom. At this moment, you may be feeling a shift. Perhaps you've been following this journey, uncovering painful truths, and slowly, something inside you has begun to change. It is not an easy path, and it was never meant to be. But in facing the difficulties of life, in understanding the nature of suffering, and in accepting the impermanence of all things, you have already taken the first steps toward true transformation. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a river. The water flows calmly, but beneath the surface, there are rocks and currents that could carry you away. This is how life often feels, smooth on the outside, but beneath the surface, there are challenges, hidden forces pulling you in many directions. But the river, just like life, is always moving. Nothing stays the same. The truth is, you have always had the ability to navigate this river of life with wisdom. The last painful truth we must face is that we have the power to transcend suffering. It is not something that happens instantly or without effort. It requires us to be brave enough to look at ourselves, to acknowledge the parts of us that are struggling, and to forgive ourselves for the mistakes we've made. We must also forgive others who have caused us harm. Forgiveness does not mean excusing wrongdoings. It simply means releasing the hold that anger and bitterness have on us. In Buddhism, this act of forgiveness is seen as the path to freedom. When we hold on to pain, when we hold on to resentment, we bind ourselves to the past. But when we let go, when we release that grip, we create space for healing, for peace, for love. This is where the true power of wisdom lies. Not in intellectual knowledge, but in the ability to practice compassion for ourselves and for others. It's easy to think that suffering is something to avoid, that we should do everything we can to escape pain. But the truth is, pain is part of life. It is not something to fear or resist. When we accept that pain is a part of our journey, it no longer has the power to control us. Instead, we learn to flow with it, to grow with it, and to let it shape us into the people we are meant to be. As you've learned throughout this series, each painful truth we've explored has been a stepping stone toward greater wisdom. Each truth, no matter how difficult, holds the key to unlocking your true potential. By embracing these truths, you can begin to see the world with fresh eyes. You can begin to understand that you're not your suffering. You are the awareness that transcends it. And in that awareness, there is boundless peace. Let's take a moment to reflect on the transformation that is already happening within you. Have you noticed the subtle shifts in your thoughts, in the way you perceive the world? Perhaps you're starting to let go of old grudges, old fears, and old patterns that have held you back. This is the beginning of liberation. But the journey doesn't end here. It's an ongoing process. The wisdom you have gained throughout this series is a seed that will continue to grow as long as you nurture it. As you move forward, keep reminding yourself of the truths you have discovered. When life gets difficult, when you feel lost or unsure, return to these lessons. They are always with you, waiting for you to reconnect with them. Now, I want to share something deeply personal with you. If you have made it to this part of the series, you have already begun to change. You have already chosen to embrace life fully, with all its pain and beauty. And that is something truly remarkable. But in this moment, I want to encourage you to go even further. Keep going, keep seeking, keep evolving. There's always more to learn, always more to discover about yourself and the world around you. Remember, the path beyond pain is not about escaping life's challenges. It's about learning to walk through them with grace, wisdom, and love. It's about realizing that every experience, every moment, is an opportunity for growth. And when you approach life from this perspective, you begin to see the beauty in everything, even in the struggles. As we come to the end of this series, I want to thank you for your time, your attention, and your willingness to explore these deep truths. This journey is not easy, but it is one worth taking. If you've gained something from this video, if even one idea has resonated with you, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters, and it can help others who are on a similar path. I also want to take this moment to remind you, Wisdom Woven is here for you. If you find yourself in need of more wisdom, more guidance, or simply more reminders that you are not alone, come back to this channel. We'll be here, exploring life's deepest truths together. There's always more to learn, more to discover, and more to experience. Finally, there's so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% subscribed. Please, if you found value in this series, like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue creating content that can transform lives. And once again, please share your thoughts in the comments. Your journey is important, and your insights are valuable to us all. May you walk the path of wisdom with courage and compassion. May you find peace in the face of every challenge. And may you always remember that beyond pain, there is transformation.